And we're live. Hi, everybody. My name is Pasha. Welcome to the Agency Operators Podcast. Today I have Nathan Hirsch with me from, wow, whole list of different companies. So many to even name, but I knew him from FreeUp back in the day. Now it's a whole bunch of other ones. Nathan, how you doing? Thank you for joining.
Doing great. Thanks so much for having me. Yeah, I love just building businesses. It's a lot of fun. So we're during the free up days. I was just free up 24/7 for 4 years. Now I got a whole portfolio of stuff. So it's a little bit of a different approach.
Yeah, and everything that you've built now seems to have been derived from your experience in FreeUp. And
Yeah.
by the way, I remember when FreeUp actually had 3 E's in it. I think you guys have, I don't know, did you buy the domain in order to get the 2 E's from
No, so
somebody else?
we tried to get the one for with two E's for years. Verizon owns it, and they were just sitting on it. And then when we sold Free Up in 2019, the new owners just changed it to two E's, but they did it .net instead of .com. So
Uh,
Verizon still owns the .com.
oh, that's a funny story. I had no idea.
Yeah,
Verizon of all people,
I
I mean,
know,
of
so
all
random.
companies. It is. Yeah, but anyhow, I mean, right now you're doing, let's see, you have two companies in balancing books, right? Bookkeeping. And then one in doing SEO via blog writing, and then another one for outsourcing as well, right? But more of like an educational versus like, kind of hands-on, how you guys are doing with FreeUp.
Yeah, and our non-compete with FreeUp is actually up at the end of the year. So I don't know exactly how we'll get back into the space, but could be a lot of fun there. So always brainstorming different ideas. And like you said, it's all stuff from our own business. Like with FreeUp, hiring a bookkeeper from day one was so important to just making decisions every single month and obviously passing due diligence and selling it. So now we offer a bookkeeping service. We run SEO on all our companies. Now we offer an SEO service. So it's not like we take a course, learn it, and then offer it. It's, hey, we do it on our own companies, have success, and then if people show interest in doing it for their companies, then we start to offer it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I'm still getting newsletter updates from FreeUp after all these years. I think you guys also came in at a perfect time with FreeUp because I mean that was the time that I was building my agency starting around 2018, 2019 area. And everybody's kind of looking for good talent, and it's hard to find overseas talent, how to vet them. So the fact that you guys had all of that qualification, and I actually applied at some point to become a freelancer on the platform too, because I knew it wasn't just Filipinos. It was basically like kind of a compete with Upwork or something like that. And so I remember the application process and the vetting process was just like really dialed in. I was very impressed.
Appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, timing is everything in entrepreneurship, right? Like I started selling on Amazon in 2009, got in super early, and then with FreeUp back then, there weren't that many e-commerce agencies or e-commerce service providers. Like you could go on Upwork and post a job and maybe find a few e-commerce people, but we really tried to create a marketplace for e-commerce people. By year 3 and 4, we had branched out and offering marketing and other stuff like that. But it really started off as a very niche platform serving a need that didn't really exist back then.
Right. And right now in the era that we're at, 2024, 25, it's a totally different world. I mean, like you said, 2019, you started selling on Amazon. That was like really back in the day, even earlier than me.
2009. Yeah, yeah.
2009, yeah. So it's a long time ago, a totally different world now. Do you see SaaS products, AI stuff? Everyone's excited about it, but there's a lot of controversy on how effective it actually is on a like a day-to-day utility based level. What do you see now as like kind of the trend?
Yeah, there's always lots of trends. I try to stay away from what everyone else is doing for as best I can, unless it's just a big market. Like everyone's trying to create an AI agency, different bots. Maybe I could do that, but for me, like bookkeeping applies to every single business. It's pretty boring. There's not many non-bookkeepers that are creating bookkeeping businesses. So not that I'm perfect at it or that I'm always finding these great business ideas, but I like when everyone like I was selling on Amazon before all these Amazon courses came out. And once everyone came out with an Amazon course is how you sell, I kind of like pivoted away and try to do something different. So that doesn't always work, but I try to kind of keep my own lane and focus on big markets. I also consider a lot noise. Like I stay up to date on what's going on and stuff like that. And we use AI here and there in our businesses, but I try to stay away from trying to predict the future because you never really know what's going to happen. Like people had predictions about COVID that it was going to wreck the stock market, and it was like the exact opposite of that. So you got to really ignore a lot of that noise while just staying informed on what's going on.
Right. Makes sense. So there was an acquisition of FreeUp that was after some years of building it up. How was that journey for you? I mean, kind of starting from scratch, right? It's like that typical garage story, basically, right? And then making it into a success and being able to get out at the right moment and then do all these other things. So how was that journey for you? I guess the question is, I want to kind of take it back a little bit and just get into more of what made you motivated to even start FreeUp and that entire process afterwards.
Yeah, FreeUp really exceeded all of our expectations. We were coming off this Amazon business that had success in the way that we made a decent amount of money over 7 years, but we never built anything that was scalable or sellable, or we kind of, it was just timing, right? Like we didn't have our own products. We were selling other people's products. Eventually people realized they didn't really need us. They could just sell their products directly on Amazon. At the beginning, they didn't know what e-commerce was. So we kind of saw the writing on the wall, and that drop shipping, even from US vendors, was going to become harder and harder as more people figured it out. So we started brainstorming what our next business idea was. And it took us years to figure out how to hire. Like the first few years of our Amazon business, we just struggled hiring college kids, hiring adults. We had no idea what we were doing. We were 20-year-old kids. So when we finally figured out that hiring process, it was a game changer for our business. And we had this great, we called it our army of VAs and freelancers, some full-time, some part-time, some project-based for our Amazon business. And when our Amazon business started going downhill, we said, hey, we have all these great people. Let's start offering them to other Amazon sellers. And just an idea like anything else. And we tried it out, and the sellers really like it. And they kept coming back for more. Hey, Nate, do you know a graphic designer? Do you know someone who can do Amazon listings? And before we knew it, we're getting hit up with all these requests. And we end up building a software around the platform to be more of an Upwork, like an actual marketplace that people can go in and have their own account with us and not have to text me for a request and put requests in through the system. And we started it with 5 grand. I mean, we MVP product, a software that was pretty crummy, that did very little, a few VAs, and me doing outbound lead generation to try to talk to sellers and land clients. And before we knew it, we were doing 1 million, 5 million, 9 million, 12 million a year by year 4. And keep in mind, we knew nothing about marketing too. We were coming from the Amazon world before PPC on the Amazon world. So we were just posting stuff on Amazon and hoping it would sell. We had no idea how to drive traffic. So we had to learn partnerships and SEO and influencer marketing and all the stuff that is common knowledge now. We didn't necessarily know any of it. So that was really how we learned how to build our own brand, not dependent on Amazon, find our own customers. And we developed this organic marketing blueprint that's actually a part of Outsource School now. If you go to outsourceschool.com/organic marketing, it's how we drive traffic for all of our businesses. So yeah, I don't know if you want to get into the sale yet, or if you have any follow-up questions, but it was kind of just that crazy experience of being like, hey, we have something here. There's a big need. It's profitable, cash flow positive, great business model, very little overhead. We had no office, no US employees. Our entire team in the Philippines ended up being 30 full-time people, thousands of freelancers on the platform, but our internal team was 30 people, and just a really great business model that we fell in love with.
Amazing. Yeah, I mean, it's quite brilliant, and the timing of it. I mean, maybe now it's a little bit more common knowledge, like build a team in the Philippines, but back then I think it wasn't as common. And back then I remember using like onlinejobs.ph, which I mean, that platform has gotten a bit saturated now. I have a hard time finding good talent over there. But it used to be different, and the entire landscape. Have you seen a big shift in the freelance landscape in general, like with Filipinos? That I'm sure that's been modified over the last couple of years too, right?
Yeah, I think COVID just opened up people's eyes to hiring. I remember talking to the people that bought FreeUp, and we sold FreeUp in November 2019. So months before COVID, it wasn't even on our radar when we were going through due diligence. And we were talking to the buyers, and they didn't know what was going to happen with this big pandemic. And all of a sudden, everyone went remote, and hiring remote became even cooler than it was before, which actually helped the marketplace more than
Mm,
it hurt it. So I know there's all like AI is going to replace every single job. I personally don't believe that, but I could,
Mm.
of course, be wrong. But I mean, every business now is hiring VAs. Even with Outsource School, we're getting enterprise type people, bigger businesses, people with large US teams that are like, hey, we can complement the US people with VAs in the Philippines, or we can hire freelance graphic designers and assign them projects over time. So I think people's mindset has just continued to evolve where now if you're an entrepreneur and you're not outsourcing, if you're not hiring freelancers, if you're only restricting yourself to people in your town and the towns around you, you're at a big competitive disadvantage to all the other companies that are actually doing that.
Yeah, yeah. I think once people start to realize that you can get better quality work for so much less, why wouldn't you do that, right? The Philippines was kind of like this gem, and it still is. I mean, it's quite amazing. You know, English as like one of the primary languages that they speak. Everybody speaks English, right? And pretty much like really great at following instruction, learning so easily, right? I mean, it's kind of amazing. So yeah, let's talk about the acquisition. I mean, that's the exciting stuff, right? Like every entrepreneur is leading everything that they're doing. I mean, most are leading everything that they're doing towards a successful exit, and that's the big payday. And then what do you do after that, right? Is the question. Like, because you get every day you're so busy, and all of a sudden you make this exit, and if you don't have any other projects that you're working on, it's like, okay, what am I going to do now, right? Did you have that experience too?
Definitely. I mean, so we put together a guide of everything that we learned going through this exit. If you go to nathanhirsch.com/exit, you can grab it. And due diligence was the most stressful 6 months of my life. You're waking up every day not knowing if the deal's going to fall through while you continue to focus on growing your business because you don't want to lose focus thinking the deal's done and then go back to a company you've just been ignoring. Super stressful every day. You're talking to lawyers. You're getting sent questions. We were vetting the buyers just like they were vetting us. We wanted to make sure we were selling it to good people that were going to take care of our team, take care of our clients, not hurt our reputation, not run the business into the ground because part of the deal is always an earnout. So we wanted to get that money, which luckily we did. And we couldn't have sold it to better people. Now, at the time, we're like, this looks really good on paper, but you're crossing your fingers. You're like, hopefully we don't end up arguing down the line or in a lawsuit or something like that. But we're kind of going back and forth. And for us, it's the biggest moment of our life. For the lawyers, it's just another Tuesday, right? They got bigger deals than us. They go on vacation. They got other things going on. Our lawyers were great, but it's just not a very quick process. And lawyers are going back. Their lawyers are trying to protect them. Our lawyers are trying to protect us. Going through every single sentence, sending back and forth corrections, and finally we get to the finish line and we sign on the dotted line, and it's this like relief that just settles over you. And then we have to tell our team, which was pretty emotional and one of the hardest things we've ever had to do, even though we took
Oh,
a large amount from the sale and gave it to them and made sure they were taken care of. But yeah, I mean, post sale, the original plan was to take a year, 2 years off. I didn't think I would see my business partner. I thought we'd be traveling the world, and all of a sudden, COVID hits like 4 months later. So all our travel plans are canceled. We're at home. We have nothing to do, no business ideas, because all we've thought about it for 4 years is free up, free up, free up. And we start just brainstorming stuff. And a buddy of mine, Nate McAllister, who I think you probably know in the Amazon space, he reached out saying, hey, if you sold the course on hiring, it would probably do well. And we started doing market research in that and seeing if they were interested. And that kind of just led us down a path of brainstorming different ideas and doing market research and hiring operators and all the stuff that we're doing now.
wow, amazing. So I guess if COVID didn't come, then it might have looked a little bit different. You might have actually taken that long vacation, but you were just kind of forced to sit at your office right after that. So you're like, might as well get back to work, right?
Yeah, no office. We kind of don't do the whole office thing, but yeah, I mean, you can only watch so much Netflix. Like at some point, we were itching to do something, and ended up being a blessing in disguise. I mean, my wife, who has a corporate job, she went to permanent remote, so that was great, and we ended up moving to Colorado, where my business partner was, and loving it here, and other stuff there. But yeah, it's tough to have regrets on something you can't control or be upset on how it turned out. But it was definitely an interesting situation, and I mean, we're entrepreneurs at heart. So at some point we were going to start or buy or do more business stuff. It was just a little sooner than we thought.
Yeah, it's in your blood For sure. You can't, yeah, it's nature at some point, right? I mean, if you were able to build it once, you definitely have that drive to keep going. And that's something that I see a lot, speaking with a lot of different people who have gone through acquisitions. I hear the typical like, I laid on my couch for 6 months and then I just couldn't take it anymore. At some point you just, that itch, it comes back because it's in your blood. It's who you are as an entrepreneur. So you want that team building and that kind of connection, and just like creating something that's valuable for people, especially at the position that you're in right now, having gone through that whole experience, ups and downs and everything. I think that's even more valuable, that you can offer something that's really tailored. Like you said, it's not that you took a course and then just like put it into something else. It's like you actually lived it and experienced it, so you know exactly the pain points, and then you're able to offer that in a clear way for people, and then offered your story too as inspiration, which is one of the reasons why you're here speaking. So, with that being said, it looks like you took all of that and actually spread it into 4 different directions. All have their own kind of niche. So, I'd love to hear more about those companies.
Yeah, so we kind of sat down and we said, all right, what do we learn from FreeUp? What do we like now that we're in a different place financially in life? Like we're older, we're married now. Like, how do we want to approach business a little bit differently? And for me, it was, hey, I don't want to work weekends. I don't want to work nights. I don't want to do like the hustle and grind that I was before. I don't want to do any work travel. I don't want to go to conferences. I want to reduce the amount of podcasts I'm on. And I don't want to be fulfillment of any business that I'm starting. I only want to start a business if I have an operator from day one that's running fulfillment, and I want to grow my personal brand. So we created a media company, and we just actually hired a CEO for that. And we started creating these different businesses where we hired an operator from day one. I'm not a bookkeeper. I'm not a CPA. If I want to start a bookkeeping business, I have to have that person with a lot of experience before we can do it. So we hired a controller with 30 years of experience. We hired a VA to run an outsource school. We started an SEO business only after we found Steven Snyder, one of the great SEO people. And we looked for people who had been there and done that before. They owned a bookkeeping business. They owned an SEO agency. They love building. They have the same values as us, and they want to be entrepreneurs, but they don't like every part of being an entrepreneur, right? They don't like the sales, or they don't like the marketing, things that we do really well. So our whole idea now, which might be crazy, might be right, I don't know, is create a personal brand, Connor and my personal brand, and use that to drive people to our different businesses. We share everything we're doing. We share all the systems that are in our company. And if people want our bookkeeping system, we offer it. They want our SEO system, we offer it. They want our hiring process, we offer it. And we're just going to continue to build out from there while using our social media and our personal brands to push people to the different businesses and hopefully build a lot of trust. Just like FreeUp, we're not perfect. We try to be. We think our customer service is pretty good. But if you use any of my companies and we mess up, we're going to make it right. We're going to make sure you're taken care of. And we want to build that relationship, that trust. And we're all about those long-term relationships. And it's kind of awesome just seeing people say, hey, I took outsource school and now I'm a bookkeeping client. Oh, you launched an SEO service. How can I get involved in that? And that's really the community and network and type of entrepreneur that we want to be. And again, have those restrictions. I have a kid now who's 11 months old. I don't want to have time away from him. I want these businesses to be able to grow without me. Not that I don't enjoy working, or that I'm not working hard or putting effort, but I want to be there to support my operators, to grow this media company, and then to help problem solve it and come up with new business ideas. And that's how I want to spend my time.
Yeah, and congrats on the new baby. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, I have a 2-year-old as well. So in the
It's the
same
best,
boat.
right?
It's the best, and you don't want anything to take that time away, because it's really like it gives you a lot of perspective, what's important. So having a balance in life. I know they say that some people say that there's no such thing as work-life balance, especially as an entrepreneur working from home, but somehow I disagree. I think there is a balance. It's all psychological. You have to have a very strong mind, have good boundaries. But I like the way that you've done that setup, where you've built these companies which are all adjacent. Like you said, somebody can do the school and then go to this service, that service. They're all working kind of together. And so you focus on the things that you're great at. So you don't want to be the operator. You want to have somebody else who's just more skilled to do it. And you focus on doing what you do best, right? Which is building these teams, bringing those concepts to life, putting people together, and then just bringing the attention for people to get involved in that funnel, or not even a funnel, but more like an ecosystem, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm a big believer in hustling while you're young, taking risks while you're young. You can always go out and get a real job. And sure, there's entrepreneurs who like really didn't work that hard, and maybe there was timing, maybe it was a great idea, maybe it was like the best execution ever. But for most entrepreneurs, you're going to have to hustle. You're going to have to put in that effort. You're going to have to do what I did during the free up years and run around at conferences and network with everyone and do whatever it takes, working weekends, taking client calls at night to achieve that goal. But you better have an end game, because if you don't have an end game, you're going to burn yourself out, and you can't do that for that long. So I try to avoid. I'm not like the Alex Hormozy where it's like never take a day off, like work
Yeah.
forever, as much as you can. But also that some of the people oversell it as well. Like entrepreneurship doesn't need to be hard. Like you can just live this great lifestyle from day one and have this crazy morning routine. For me, it's like do what you need to do when you're young, take risks, and if you fail, like most businesses do, you got a cushion. You probably don't have that many responsibilities, wife, children, whatever. Go ahead and get a real job. But if you do it right and you work really hard and you connect with the right people, you can set yourself up for an exit or a successful business or being able to build portfolio businesses or whatever you want to do. That once you get past your 30s, you're able to run a much different lifestyle while still being in that entrepreneurship world. And that's what I'm a big proponent of.
So does that mean that you've experienced some big failures as well along the way?
Absolutely. Anyone that tells you otherwise. I mean, we opened up an office for our Amazon business that was a disaster. We signed this huge lease. We did all this redecoration and hired people outside of Home Depot to do construction, and ended up having to pay professionals to like redo it afterwards and break the lease. We've gotten suspended on Amazon, unsuspended, resuspended again. We've had every like possible good and bad thing go wrong. I always tell a story where I went on vacation, and on my first day of vacation, my biggest manufacturer dropped me. Someone filed a fake tax return in my name and stole my identity. And my top employee quit. It was like the worst day of my life on my first day of vacation. So
Oh man.
every entrepreneur kind of goes through those ups and downs. Anyone that tells you like they're it's just been straight up is lying to you. But you kind of get numb to it as you get older, as you become an entrepreneur more. Like now, when something goes wrong in our business, we're not like, oh my god, like everything's falling apart. We're like, all right, this is a problem we have to solve, and one way or another, we're going to get over it. And when things are going great and you're landing all these clients and your business is growing, you're not thinking you're on top of the world. You're like, this is good. How do we keep this up? How do we prevent things that could happen from popping up? And it kind of changes your mentality.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that entirely. I think you become so numb at some point, and it's just inherently what entrepreneurship is about. It's about solving problems. So if there were no problems, you wouldn't have anything to do. You're essentially creating those obstacles in the first place by nature of starting a business, starting a venture. You're basically opening yourself to the possibility of something going wrong that you don't expect, that you need to urgently take care of. And it's just like at some point, I mean, having four businesses is probably a day-to-day thing. The size of the problem varies. Hopefully not too many huge ones, but I can imagine that experience. I mean, going on vacation, you feel like you're about to take some time off and relax, and actually you get just annihilated, right? Just a tsunami of different issues that it feels like it's the end, but never really is the end, right? You
Right.
figure out a way to just get over it one step at a time, breathe, and then, I mean, little time passes. Some mistakes or some failures, they are more long lasting, especially ones that like financial setbacks that put you back, and you can't, like on Amazon, you can't restock fast enough. Listing goes down, rank goes back down, then it takes some time to get inventory back up and get the rank going. Like it could take months of churn to get back to that same point. But through that experience, you just accumulate more momentum, more knowledge, and then you're smarter the next round. So you're just going through that spiral.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's all lessons, right? Like you take stuff from previous businesses, success, failure, and you apply them to future businesses, and you get a little bit better every single year, and that's what it's all about.
So I have a question actually about the balancing the books business, right? So there's two of them for bookkeeping.
Yeah.
What are the main differences? Like, why did you decide to divide that into two separate entities?
Yeah, so we started off doing e-commerce bookkeeping. I come from the e-commerce space, and we kind of know that there's an e-commerce market. That's definitely a higher price point. E-commerce bookkeeping is more complex. There's more software involved. There's cost of goods, inventory, sales channels, sales fees, all that kind of stuff. So we started off with that, and then we started getting requests from agencies or SaaS or coaches or real estate people that wanted bookkeeping, but having ecom balance as the name, they weren't 100% sure that we could actually handle it, even though we could. So we started accounts balance, which is a lower price point, same service. It's just for businesses that are not the e-commerce complexity. And we kind of operate that as a separate brand with a separate team that handles the non-e-commerce bookkeeping. So same monthly service, charge on the first, books by the 15th, easy to report, great customer service, work directly with your CPA, all of that. But the e-commerce is just a higher price point. It's a little bit more involved.
Okay, so the e-com one is just specialized specifically for that type of business, but even small businesses, which are just like mom and pop shops somewhere, doing whatever, anywhere, right? They can still work with you guys, just not the e-com
Yeah, just
bookkeeper.
accountsbalance.com. And I mean, if you go to ecombalance.com and fill out a form, we're still going to get you a quote for accountsbalance.com and move you over there. But yeah, we tried to, it's more of a, yeah, it's a clarity thing too. Because again, if someone's not an e-commerce, or if someone is an e-commerce business, they want to know that we can handle e-commerce. And if someone's not an e-commerce business, we need an option for them that makes sense. It speaks to their language.
And so that's going to be important for any entrepreneur, not just for them to file taxes and be effective with that, but also to get them prepared for an exit, right? I imagine that's where you probably discovered a lot about bookkeeping was during that exit process. Is that
Yeah,
true?
yeah. And if anyone wants a sample of what our reports look like, we're very proud of them. And CPAs that we work with really like them, either ecombalance.com or accountsbalance.com/reports. You can check that out. But there's so many reasons to have clean books. I mean, first of all, you shouldn't be doing bookkeeping yourself. Terrible use of your time. You're probably going to have to pay someone to redo it anyway. And yes, it's going to help you make tax season less stressful because you're doing it every month. So at the end of the year, you just pass it over to your accountant. If you ever want to sell your business, you have to have clean books. If you ever want to get funding or investments, you have to have clean books. But the real reason to do bookkeeping is decision making. Most people don't go through an exit, they don't get funding, they don't get investments. If you want to make good decisions, you can't do it based on gut or instinct or looking at your bank account. You need to do it based on what your monthly books actually look like, based on real numbers. And you need to have a finance meeting in your calendar that you run every single month. If you go to ecombalance or accountsbalance.com/agenda, you can grab the finance meeting that Connor and I do every single month. The 15th is almost here. We're about to get the books for all four companies, and we're going to run through this exact meeting. And that's when we decide, hey, I'm going to hire people. I'm going to increase marketing. I'm going to decrease whatever. And you're comparing this month to last month and this month to last year. And that's what the best entrepreneurs do. They're looking at real numbers with a good bookkeeping process every single month. And I think that's different between veteran entrepreneurs and veteran sellers that understand that versus the new entrepreneur that either ignores bookkeeping or thinks they can just do it themselves and usually falls behind pretty quick.
That's a very good point. Could you give an example of what decisions kind of come out of that? So you get your books, you sit down with your partner, you say, all right, this is our profit, our loss, this is what's going on. Maybe cut the expenses over here. Can we invest in this new venture? Those kind of things, or does it go deeper than that?
Yeah, I mean, a big thing is profit margin, right? You want to be tracking your margin every single month and looking at trends. If your margin is going down over time, that's a bad place to be. And you got to either increase your prices or decrease your costs or the cost of your inventory. So that's a simple thing, but there's so many people that don't actually know what their margins are, that aren't tracking them, or that are not correct on what their margins are. And that's an easy thing where it's like, hey, I need to do one or the other, or it's heading in the wrong direction. And with FreeUp, for example, we were religiously tracking that. If it was going up month over month, great. If it was going down, something had to give. We needed to make sure that margins were over a certain point and going in the right direction. And for e-commerce businesses that have low margins to begin with, that's even more important. There's also segmentation. Like you might offer multiple services in your company, and some are more profitable than others. And you might be wasting a lot of time on a service that makes you less money than something you can be focused on. Same thing with products, same thing with selling on Amazon US versus Amazon Japan. You need to make sure you know what parts of your business are making the most and the least money, because that's where you need to focus your time.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And so, do you guys still sell on Amazon?
We do not. I stopped selling about, so there's a little overlap with the Amazon selling and FreeUp, but about a year into FreeUp, we were having way more fun with FreeUp, growing our own brand, not being dependent on Amazon, making way more money, and we decided to shut down our Amazon business.
Cool. And you guys work with agencies too on any of these services? So I imagine if you're going direct to any entrepreneur, then you could probably work like on an agency level, maybe even white label, right? Resell the service, something like that.
Yeah, we've got some white label stuff. I mean, accounts balance or bookkeeping, we work with lots of agencies. If you go to accountsbalance.com/report, you can see a monthly report that's designed for agencies. And yeah, I mean, True SEO, we've got lots of agency partners there and agencies that use us for SEO or white label it to their clients. So love working with agencies. And just like the e-com space, I've been in the agency space forever. So love just networking and meeting people in the space and seeing if there's different ways to work together.
Awesome. And a quick question, actually, I was something that comes to mind now that AI is so kind of prominent and considered. You were mentioning a little earlier, you don't think it's going to replace people. Neither do I. But blogging and SEO has changed so much. So I want to pivot over to that and just say, like, do you guys use AI? And if not, how are you competing with all this like massive? I mean, it's a question for Google for sure, but how are you guys dealing with just, there's tons of AI written articles. It's almost like, what's the point of writing anything from scratch anymore besides readability? But from an SEO standpoint, I mean, is it almost the same? Like, how are you guys dealing with that?
Yeah, we don't use AI for writing. We do use it for research and brainstorming and stuff like that. We still believe human writing's better. For us, it's about strategy and putting out high quality content. The people that just put up spammy AI content, they got crushed with the latest Google update. So we will put our content and our strategy and our 90-day sprints and our SEO execution against anything out there. And we continue to test tools and be on top of AI and all of that. And maybe one day that changes. But for us, it doesn't really matter how you get to the end result, even though we use US Writer or even though we use real writers. What matters is, are you putting out high quality content that speaks directly to your reader, your ideal customer, and actually helps them in some way? That's what matters over everything else, over any hack, trick, AI, not AI. Are you putting out high quality content with a really good plan behind it? And that's what we do really well.
Right. And so that is the primary driver for SEO is just going to be that really high quality content consistently being posted on somebody's hosted website.
Yeah,
Simple
and
as that.
and I mean, there's other stuff you can do to support it, like your optimization of your website, backlinks, lead magnets, and we point out if you're our client, we point out everything. Even though our output is just the blog and we focus on the content, we want to share every strategy we know, any way that you can improve your website. You're getting our brains as part of it, but content first. That needs to be. You need to have a consistent, good strategy with content going out, and everything else you do is going to support that.
Right. So with managing all these companies, do you have an entirely different system in terms of like your team for each one, or is it just kind of like one giant team and then everybody's kind of involved in all the different projects?
Separate. Like our teams are separate. The things that are overlapped are the marketing, and then like we have a central billing. So, but outside of that, it's completely separate. The SEO people aren't part of the bookkeeping business. The bookkeepers aren't part of the SEO business. Stuff like that. So, if we were ever to sell it or whatever, it obviously makes it easier to do that. It's not really the plan. We'd love to just hold on to these forever. Although if someone makes an offer, we'll of course listen. But yeah, we try to make it so each one will run on its own, and then from the marketing and the billing and stuff, there is like an economies of scale that helps you do that.
Right. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And then any plans for a fifth coming in? I'm sure you're always brainstorming new stuff. You guys opening any other companies soon?
Yeah, I mentioned our non-compete is up with FreeUp at the end of the year. So we want to get back into the space. I mean, I can't tell you how many people reach out to me now asking for VAs and freelancers. And I respectfully tell them, hey, I sell my hiring process outsource school, but I don't actually like match people up. But we'd love to have a business in our portfolio. I don't know if we'll do it on the FreeUp level or whatever. That's yet to be seen. But we definitely want to get back into space. And we've got some other ideas as well. And it just depends on the research we do and what's going on and what we decide to focus on and what kind of operators we find.
Amazing. Nathan, this has been really insightful. I appreciate you sharing all of this, your story, your journey, everything that you're doing. Any final words that you want to share before we end the live stream for today?
No, really appreciate it. If you're watching now on LinkedIn, ring my LinkedIn bell, give me a follow. You can join my newsletter at nathanhirsch.com/newsletter. And yeah, just really appreciate you having me on.
Thanks, Nathan. I appreciate it. Thanks everyone for watching. See you on the next one.